All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for tonight's Raising Kings 2022 discussion of the Academy Award winning movie King Richard. So, tonight we're going to dig into some of the many powerful lessons from the King Richard movie as it pertains to changing the image and expectations of our Black boys and men, and also how it applies to our essential duty of raising kings in our homes, raising kings in our communities, and everywhere in all of the circles of influences that we hold. So tonight I had the honor to share the panel with some esteemed gentlemen who I hold in the highest regard. These are all men who I have been friends with for anywhere between 15 and a couple people close to 30 years. So I respect them all highly and consider them good friends and brothers. Now, tonight's panel is going to be interactive. So that means that we need your engagement. So please type your comments, type your questions, and if you haven't already, share the link with others so that they can join in as well. We can all learn and grow together. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll pass it off to the other panelists and hear from them as well. So my name is Ken Swain. I'm originally from Philadelphia, born and raised, and I currently reside in Wilmington, Delaware. Went to the University of Delaware and majored in electrical engineering, and professionally, I work as a software engineer. I've been married now for almost 23 years to my beautiful wife, Jamie, and we are the proud parents of two children. My oldest daughter is Sienna, and she's a junior psychology major at Hampton University. And my son, Kenneth Jr., is 9 years old. He's in the fourth grade and an aspiring violinist. He thinks he's a chess grandmaster, all star, NFL punter, you name it. So that's it. I'm super excited to be here tonight. Matter of fact, just like Chuck D said, I'm not excited. I'm ready and hyped. Plus, I'm amped. So let's get it.
So,
You up?
Okay. My name's Omar Williams. I reside in Wilmington, Delaware. I'm a former minister and youth leader for some years now. I'll be married 12 years this New Year's Eve. Uh, I have two children. My oldest is going to be 7, and my youngest is going to be 4. Just a quick story about them. You couldn't have told me my first child wasn't going to be a boy, and I said my father just passed away, and I said I'm gonna honor him by naming my first child his name. And then a girl pops out, and I'm like, you know what? I can still do it. So my father's name is Lorenzo Williams, and my daughter's name is Loren Zoe Williams. So when you see it on paper, it looks like Lorenzo Williams. And I have my son, whose name is Omar Williams, also, but his middle name's different because I didn't want people calling him OJ.
Got it.
So that's me, man.
All right. Good money. Kala.
my name is Kala Pinyama Richardson. I'm an educator, and I've been married for 25 years and counting. I have 3 children, 3 wonderful children. I have a son who's a sophomore at Howard University. I have a daughter who is a lawyer from UB, and I also have a daughter who is a chemist. Um, like I said, I've been married 25 years. I'm an educator, gardener, mentor, and mentee, and brother.
All right. All right. Thank you. Greg.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm Grouchy Greg, founder of allhiphop.com with my brother, Chuck Creekmer. I have 2 wonderful children, Roman, who is 7, about to be 8, and Ramses, who is 2 and about to be 3. And the 2 kids keep me busy all day, every day. I started having children a little later than most of the people on the call, with the exception of Omar.
Right.
And it's been a wonderful, enriching experience. I often say that I wish I would have started a little earlier if I'd have known how wonderful and joyous fatherhood actually is. But I'm thankful that I waited, because I probably wouldn't have the two young boys that I have right now, who I absolutely adore.
That's what's up, man. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, Chuck.
What's going on, everybody? My name's Chuck Creekmer, aka Jigsaw. I'm the other founder and co-founder of allhiphop.com. I'm also a tenured member of the Raising Kings crew, which is a program within One Village Alliance. 10 years in running, so this is a really special year for us. But as a father, I'm a father of a young, well, not so young. She's a teenager, freshman in college now, and she's my heart and definitely my best friend in a lot of ways. We do a lot of things together, including comic book movies and a bunch of other things that I'll say for later in this conversation. But being a father is a joyous thing. It's hard work. I do miss the times when she was smaller, but I think we've realized that we've kind of locked the key as she's gotten older to enjoy the present time and the future in predicting that things will be really good going forward. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and I really enjoyed King Richard a lot. I've seen it 2 times, and I want to watch it again just to really deep dive into it. But I want to share a little bit with folks about Raising Kings. Raising Kings, as I mentioned, is a program within the One Village Alliance, which is an organization that is based in Wilmington, Delaware, and has a location also in South Jersey, founded by Chandra Pitts. Uh, Raising Kings really focuses on uh, raising young men into kings, period, straight like that. It really focuses on Black men and Black youth, and we really push hard in the community and really take a hands-on approach to our young men. We have changed a little bit in the last year or so to adjust to some of the changes in our world. The pandemic is one of them, but not limited to. Technology has also changed us in a way that allows us to reach far more people. So right now we're transmitting this not only through OVA, but through All Hip Hop and YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms to extend our reach. So I'm really happy to be here, and I hope you guys are ready to jump head on into this conversation.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Chuck. And thank you for sharing that background for information for anybody that didn't have it. I would be remiss if we did not take a moment to acknowledge the huge loss that we've experienced in the recent tragic and sudden passing of Dr. Terrence Newton. I did not have the pleasure of knowing Dr. Newton, but from what I understand, he was highly respected and very, very much loved. And he was certainly about the business of raising kings and raising the entire village. I've read that he started a barbershop in his school to serve the students there and to boost their confidence and make them feel better about themselves. And also read that he was in the habit of greeting his students every day. So his presence is definitely going to be missed. And on behalf of One Village Alliance and, and Raising Kings, just want to extend our deepest condolences to his family, to the students, and to everyone whose lives that he touched. So I'm just going to ask if you could all join me just for a brief moment of silence for Dr. Terrence Newton. Thank you. All right, brothers. So y'all know what it is, right? So we just gonna go ahead and get right to it, and we're gonna deal with the elephant in the room. that being the slap heard around the world, right? So I'm gonna just put it out there as a disclaimer so everybody knows that this Raising Kings team, One Village Alliance, we've been planning this discussion about this movie for a couple months now. So this has been in the making for this particular movie to have this discussion, and then the timing just worked out the way it did. So we're gonna go ahead and deal with it. So I'm gonna start off with you, Chuck, and just cue it up, and let's hear your thoughts about initially about the interaction that happened at the Oscars.
Man, you're gonna put me on the spot like that?
No, I am, man.
Well, I wrote an op-ed piece today, and it's on allhiphop.com, so check that out. And I played it a little bit safe, but my thoughts are very simple. Chris, first of all, Will Smith was wrong in attacking Chris Rock. I do not think that there's really any excusing the behavior. From Will's point of view, if he's dealing with some things, and we all do deal with some things, and we all get upset and we all lose our head, you will have to deal with those consequences and those repercussions as a man. I just think that as I was mentioning to someone earlier today, I think we as men, we have to give each other a little bit of grace, a little bit of leeway. I know Chris Rock's a comedian, but I do not think that he went into this with a malicious spirit. I think he was paid to entertain, and I think that we have to communicate. We have to try to talk to each other. We have to give each other a little bit of grace, a little more respect, and that's where I'll leave it. I hope that there's a healing process, and a real healing process, not an entertainment process, not a likes and views process, not a showing out process, but a real healing process. Chris Rock has been very open and honest about his dealing with his bullying, being bullied, being the victim of robberies. His show, the premise is very rooted in his struggles in a comedic way, and I do think he was failed that night. I think we've actually failed him too. The memes, some of them are just atrocious. And I think men oftentimes need protection as well. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And that was one of the things that we wanted to, make sure that we get away from just the talk that you hear every day, right? All of the memes and all of the craziness. But we're here in the business of raising kings, right? So you did call out a couple points of the consequences as well as extending grace, which is our key essential points for us in our king walk. How about you, Kala? What was your reaction, and what do you think?
Well, what I would say is that as kings, we do make mistakes. And we do the wrong thing sometimes, and it's a matter of acknowledging the mistake that was made. Now, I like Will Smith and I like Chris Rock. I mean, however, the move that was made towards Chris Rock, in my opinion, was a cowardly move, and it was performative in nature, because in the real world, in our real neighborhoods, we don't interact with each other like that. And if we do interact with each other like that, it goes beyond that. And I'm just glad that Will smacked him and went to his seat without giving him a chance to think. I mean, giving him a chance to think about what he should do and what he shouldn't do, because sometimes we can just react like what Will did.
Yeah, appreciate that. He definitely needed a second, because had he stayed there right in that moment, then that could have led to even
Chris
more.
Chris might have reacted in the same manner,
Right. So one of the things that that I noted was in Will's acceptance speech, and part of his acceptance speech, he spoke a lot about his calling to defend others, the women in his life, and different people that he's around. And it just struck me because it paralleled with one of the clips from the movie, which we're about to take a look at, where some guys had been harassing his daughter in the movie. King, the King Richard character, William's father, had been harassing the daughter in the movie. And it got to a point where I guess he just got to his breaking point, had enough, and wanted to handle it. So let's look at that clip of him reacting in that moment. Wow. So in that clip, it's almost like to me, it struck me as after seeing the Oscars event, almost like life imitating art. Where he had to felt compelled to go and deal with that situation. Um, oh, I want to get your thoughts on you know is there ever a right time and place, when we're in the process of raising our kings, where we have to take extreme defense measures or come to their rescue?
Well, I do believe in protecting your family, standing up for your family, standing in the gap for your family, but I'm not I'm not sure if I'm throwing it all away. He was about to catch a murder charge. But like
That's right.
so I don't know about that. I'm not throwing it all away because there's a bigger picture here. But like that scene, to me, what stuck out to me the most was this man was so purpose driven and in his like what he was called to do, that like he couldn't even mess that up. It was almost like something
Mm,
intervened and got in the way because he was so on purpose of raising his girls, man, that
mm.
he wasn't even going to be able to mess that up. That's what stuck out to me the most with that clip.
Man, that's a nugget right there.
Mhm.
Is having purpose, and
Yeah.
intention when you're raising your kings and those around you. You got to be true to that, and in this instance, he was saved from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what about
See.
you, Kala?
Well, like I mean, just seeing that, like I said, like you have to have an opportunity to think and to strategize. And I agree with what Omar said 100%. Like um, you have to move tactfully and strategically. Like I mean, and there can be times when extreme violence is necessary. I mean, like I guess like in a war torn situation, or like when someone is facing you with a lethal weapon. Like there are times when you may have to react in that type of way, but you do have to. But if it's not a lethal situation, if it's not an emergent situation, you have to put yourself in a position where you can think about being in place for uh, your children or for the kings that you're going to be raising.
Yeah, I agree with that. At the end of the day, I'm no good to my family if I'm in the joint, you know.
Yeah.
And granted, they might have others around that can stand in the gap, as Omar mentioned earlier. But you know, at the end of the day, the kids want and need their dad. So me as their ultimate protector, provider, and love of my family, I'm of no good if I'm locked up, you know, because I had a hot head. Right. It looked like you were going to say something, Greg.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me in the movie was that he never resorted to violence in front of his children.
Mm.
The only time he actually resorted to violence was after they physically assaulted him and he, struck the guy with the tennis racket. And then they jumped him, which led to the scene we just watched. But
Right.
in the movie, anyway, his children never saw that. So it struck me as a little odd to watch Will Smith, you know, his behavior in front of so many people when he's a role model to so many people. And to Will's credit, he did apologize, which is what we're looking at here on the screen. But I feel like he did a great disservice to a lot of young people who look up to him, and it's going to take him some time to rehabilitate his image, because that was such a sensational moment that it's going to follow him and maybe quite possibly overshadow anything he does for the rest of his career.
Yeah. So you mentioned that aspect of being a role model, and you know, just when we're raising our kings, and when I say kings, I mean, you know, not just the folks in your home. I'm talking about your community, everywhere. The people that you touch, whose lives you touch, they're looking up to us. They're looking for cues. They're looking for lessons, examples. So, you know, what would you say to your kids of a better way to handle a hot situation like that?
Chuck.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut off. But yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, as crazy as it sounds, we grew up in a different era where you could square up, you could meet after school or whatever the case may be, and there were maybe some, maybe a suspension or a detention or something like that. Nowadays, it's really life and death. So I would definitely preach to any kid or young person now to do your best to diffuse the situation, walk away, even whatever you have to do to live another day. And that's something that took me a long time to learn that. As I think about the '90s era, which I came up in, there were a lot of potholes, a lot of pitfalls, and I do thank God quite often for getting me through those years without falling into one of them. So for now, for these days, these kids, they need to understand, and you need to repeatedly talk to them over and over and over and over. You can't have one conversation about violence or the birds and the bees or cops or whatever the case may be, and it be done. You have to have that repeatedly, or else you will see that they will fall into peer pressure or listening to whatever music or entertainment or thinking it's cool. One thing I noted in my write up on All Hip Hop about Jaden is that I saw a piece of myself in Jaden, how proud he was of what Will Smith had done, and I mentioned how happy I was to see my pop kind of make men stand down. He was 6'2", 250. He was a big guy. Nobody was really trying to test the waters with him. He never resorted to violence that I ever saw, but it was pretty clear he would be ready if he wanted to do something. Nobody busted a move on my dad, but if he had I might feel pride. But these are different times, so I would encourage any young person and parent to de-escalate.
Yeah, I love that, man. My when I was growing up, my dad would always say, you don't have to teach kids to fight, because they're going to get tired of certain things and they're going to deal with it eventually and learn. Now that doesn't mean that you let folks run all over you or whatever. But the point is my dad was nobody's punk either, and he, if it push came to shove, he wanted all the smoke. But he never led with that. He commanded respect and commanded the space that he was in, and taught me to try to do the same. So I agree with that wholeheartedly, man. To just do your best to keep a level head, command the respect that you believe you deserve, and give the same respect as well. I saw a comment come up. Did we have a comment, Greg?
No, they were just comments. They weren't questions.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I want to add something to that. I want to say something that that my mother, God bless the dead, would say. And I'm going to clean it up a little bit. And, I'm going to say, you always give somebody a chance to say, forget you. You always give them a chance. You always give them an opportunity to do that. So, if it was such a bad situation, from his seat, he could have said exactly how that made him feel. He could have said that. And now Chris Rock has the opportunity to clarify whether he's being malicious or not, right? You have to give people that opportunity. You have to let them make their intentions clear. All right. And, it's just a simple thing like, I don't want you. I mean, he could have yelled on and say, I don't want you talking about my wife like that, in that way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he didn't even have to bring in the profanity or anything. He like, I don't like that. Don't do that. And then if he continues, then you have to make the next move.
Yeah. No, for sure. So, one of the things that kind of stood out to me is like, this is just one aspect. What I saw throughout the entire movie were different ways that raising kings could play out, or different ways that he showed up as a father in the movie. And that theme of protection, defending, just kind of carried out through the entire movie of defending, advocating, and looking out for kids in that way. So one of the other related clips that kind of touched on that was the scene with the cop visit. And that was another light of him protecting his children. So let's take a look at that clip and unplug that a little bit.
Civiliation. Okay, Mr. Williams, this is really not necessary.
Hold on. You want to check on the kids? Let's check on the kids. We got future doctors and lawyers, plus a couple tennis stars in this house. Now, I understand you got to do your job, even if some crazy ass neighbor do call talking foolishness. And I don't even mind you saying we hard on these kids. You know why? Because we are. That's our job, to keep them off these streets. You want to arrest us for that? Fine, but what you're not gonna never do is come knock on this door talking about you have to blow their damn brains out in them streets because they running with hoodlums and doing drugs and things. That's what you not never gonna say in this house. You want to arrest us for that?
Man, that just gave me chills. We're looking at the ultimate, advocate, defender, protector of his children in that moment. What were you gonna say?
No, man, it's just seeing a father set the narrative for his household, man. Cop tried to come in there, tell him what he may be doing wrong, and he was like, you know what? Yes, we are hard on them, but you won't name this amongst them. And it was just, it was a powerful scene, man. And it made her stand down, because I don't know what person can look a man in his face when he's protecting his family like that and go otherwise. Yeah. He stood up for his family and his daughters and another part I like too, his wife it was a point where she looked like, here goes Richard again, but she let him go.
Yeah.
She didn't jump in, and she let him defend the family.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was beautiful, and it was relatable because for me personally, there was a stretch where at some point every single school year, I had to go march up to the school like Miss Sophia in Color Purple, marching up the road to deal with some teacher who, in some way, disrespected, marginalized, just treated my children in a way that I didn't appreciate. So this was totally relatable to me, in that, when I'm looking at raising kings, raising my family, I'm looking at, I have to stand up for them. I have to defend them because the world is going to do their best job possible to tear my children down. So it's my job to stand there and advocate for them under all circumstances. And I just love that message as it related to, raising kings.
The one thing I think we have to do as well is teach our kids how to defend themselves too. For me, I mean, that's definitely who I am. I fantasize about about defending my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't wait. I just wish somebody would. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Come on, sucker.
You know what I mean? That's how I feel. But at the same time, it does get to a point where they're going to have to go out into the world and they're going to have to fight the wolves. They're going to have to run with the wolves or swim with the sharks. And we have to teach them how to do that. Sometimes that means, learning how to throw a couple hands, or walking away. There's a lot of ways to deal with things, but either way, you have to teach them about how to survive and how to live out here. And I also, by the way, in terms of just defending your family or protecting them, I love that the kids know it. The kids know it, the girls know it, and the boys know it. I mean, like I said, my dad. I love that my dad had my back. When I had my first fight, I was scared, man. I had a bully. I was scared. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie. I knew I couldn't keep getting bullied, but I said, "Hey, Dad, just in case, can you be there? Just in case, I whooped his butt, but just in case." So that said, it's always good to have kids knowing that you have their back.
Now, Chuck, let me ask you something. So, I think everybody on the panel has a son, I believe, except you, right? So, talk about what it's like, or how does raising kings relate to raising your queen? Is there a difference? Do you think that it should even be a difference in how we raise our queens versus raising our kings?
Yeah, there's some differences. First of all, you just have to recognize the male female dynamic. That your daughter is most likely your first love, or you're your daughter's first love, I should say. And I think the same applies for boys and their mother. And understand that that's going to have a huge impact on how they select a mate, if they do indeed select a male as their mate. I try to keep that in mind. I don't discipline my daughter anymore, but our interactions have to be in a way that she doesn't go out there and look for someone that's yelling at her, for example, or something like that. So I just try my best to make sure I understand that she understands that certain things are not permissible. On the flip side, I do think that there are some universal laws out here, and the world doesn't oftentimes, especially for our young Black men and women, and doesn't discern between male and female. The cops are killing Black men and Black women now. It's just very flagrant now. those lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
So that's it.
what about
Yeah.
you from, I know Omar, your children are both young, a boy and a girl. Um, so with them coming up right together at that very young age, do you find yourself differentiating how you move, bouncing from one to the other, your queen and your king?
Yeah, man, I'm more rigid with him. Like I'm more stern with him. I'm kind of on him a little bit more, but like again, I don't let anything slide with him because I had like I'm raising a king, right? And I need him, to be a king when he's able to, when he gets older and he gets out of this house, he needs to be a king of his castle. So I'm on him more, and I like to thank my wife that like she allowed like she sometimes has to leave the room because I got when I discipline him, she allows me to do it, and but with my girl, I'm like Mr. Softy, man. I'm I'm
Mhm.
Yeah.
delicate with her. I'm soft with her, man. I keep everything. I leave the disciplining to her mother. But my main thing is I didn't want to normalize a man yelling at her. I didn't want to normalize a man hitting her,
Mm,
or like, I
Mhm.
didn't want to normalize those behaviors. So when she leaves this household, she got to understand of how a man's supposed to talk to her, a man's supposed to love her, a man's supposed to treat her, and a man's supposed to honor her as a woman. So yes, I definitely raise them different.
that's beautiful. What
man.
about you, Carla? I know you have,
Yeah,
adult girls.
you know, I believe that I'm a little different. I raised, I look at my two daughters as kings too.
Mm,
I mean they're feminine, of course, and they're females, but like I always try to prepare them to be, you know, warriors, like to be fighters, like to be advocates for those who can't advocate for themselves, and to stand up for themselves, because I really don't believe in putting your safety in the hands of someone else. So I prepared them a little bit differently, like, and I look at going back to the movie, how Richard always talked about Venus as Junior.
mm,
Mm,
right.
that's
You know what
good.
I'm saying? He wasn't preparing her to be a king or queen. He was preparing her to be, well,
Hmm.
he was preparing her to be a king, to run the
Hmm.
things, to run things. You know what I'm saying? And and it was regardless of her biological pieces or what have you.
Yeah, yeah, love it, love it.
Oh, there's a
So
bad
if
echo.
go ahead.
Oh no, I just saw that it says there's a bad echo.
I don't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Me
It's gone.
neither.
It's
Yeah.
gone.
Oh, okay. Hopefully it's good now. Um, we're hearing a lot of strong convictions and practices, and I'm just curious if somebody wants to jump in and just talk a little bit about what you would see as the experiences or the people who most help you to form your philosophies and approaches to how you deal with um, raising your kings and queens.
Yeah, I'll take that one. For me, it was my father, like probably a lot of people. But for me, there was a duality of good and bad, So alcoholism runs on both sides of my family, my mom and my dad. So for the first 23 years of my life and my siblings' lives, that was all we saw from our father. It was a very traumatic household. However, from 24 all the way up until the present time, and I'm not going to say my age so I don't date myself, but it's been well over 2 decades. He's been completely sober, and he's also been a mentor to other people trying to get sober throughout the entire state of Delaware. And so for me, when I look at both of my sons, I not only have the lessons of making sure that the household is peaceful, there's no chaos, And that was one of the things in King Richard that I really took away from, was that, I'm sure in real life there was more than one argument, but in the movie, which we're discussing, there was only one real flare up between Richard and Brandy, and that was when they were arguing over whether or not Venus should go pro. But they really managed to have a peaceful household, and that's something that I strive to make sure that both of my sons have, and they don't see the traumatic behavior, because at some point the cycle has to be broken.
Word up. Word up. What about you? Is there any, certain source or whatever that you would attribute to helping you form how you move with your children?
Yeah, well, being that I grew up in single mother household. My dad was there maybe from like 0 to 5, and then came back around from like 10 to 12. So, but for the most part, it was a single mom. So I kind of like, I was fortunate enough, again, like to be around men who exhibit fatherhood, and like, so I kind of piecemeal everything. I'll glean from everywhere. Where like I'll glean from you, Ken. I see a different, but like I just glean and take from different places, and I go, you know what? That man looks like he's kinging over there. That brother looks like he's a great father, and I'll just take from different places. And I've been fortunate enough to be around men and leaders of sorts that are great fathers, great husbands, and I just I sit and watch. I ask questions, man. So I
Yeah.
just glean from a bunch. I got a lot of people I take from, man. A lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I feel like I had a similar upbringing. I was in a two-parent household, and my dad was there. He was great. But one thing I feel like I learned growing up is that everybody can't be everything. Like one person can't be everything. I see
Mm-hmm.
that in myself as well. Anybody that knows me, for example, knows that I am the most non-athletic person that you will ever meet. So when my son wants to, go play basketball, I might have to get an assist, from one of my homies that are athletic, you know what I mean? Or if if it's time to work on a car, do something handy. What I mean? I'm not the dude for that. You know what I mean? And that was similar to when I was growing up. There were things that my dad was great at. My dad was very intelligent about. There were some things that he didn't know, and he wasn't too proud to receive other people pouring into me in different ways. So it was a beautiful thing. And just one quick, story that I'll share is, you know, about 2 years ago, I polled a lot of the important men in my life that are close, the people that I consider part of my village. And I asked them, what are the words that describe you, as a man and how you show up? And based on that, I put together a word cloud in the form of a power fist. And it was just to remind me that all of these different attributes from all of these people together make me strong, so where I lack, others fill in the gap. And I see that essentially as part of building, raising our kings, raising our queens as well. We have to really embrace that village and take from everything that we can, just like you said, Omar.
Yeah, and Ken, I really admire the way that you have done that. I mean, like I wish I was in Omar's position so I could see a father like you, like the way that you have constructed all of this. I mean, you basically put together a whole university for your son, basically. And I love it, man. I love it. That's
Salute, bro. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You saying something, Chuck? You on mute?
The other day, Ken had an incredible Facebook post of all the men in his son's life, and I looked at it no less than 4 times. I was just in awe of it, and really spectacular. To be real with you, it's something that I've tried to put in practice with my daughter. I obviously, well, first of all, and I don't mean to expound on this at all, but I did have an unfortunate divorce, and that divorce produced a fracture in my daughter's upbringing. And for me, I wanted to make sure that I surrounded my daughter around a tremendous village. Chandra from One Village Alliance is one of those people, but not limited to. There's a very large source of feminine energy for her as well. To allow her to be a whole woman and fill in the gaps where I have no clue. But I think when you're talking about raising these kids, kings, queens, it's important. And the world is complicated now. It's extremely complex. It's not like go to high school, go to college, get a job anymore. It's very difficult. Kids want to be comedians. They want to be basketball stars. They want to, go to the moon. It's great to have a network that can address almost all of those situations.
That's dope. That's dope. So I'm curious to know, in our journey of raising kings, is there any one, trump card that you're going to go to or lean on most heavily, when you're interacting with your children? What is that thing that is your most relied on go to for mentoring and coaching to your kids?
A roof over the head, does that count?
Absolutely, brother. Yeah.
That's my go-to.
Doggone right.
I'm like, you don't pay for none of this.
None of it. None of it. All of that's mine. That orange juice, that jelly, that's mine. All of that.
This is my house, Eddie. This is my house.
This is my house, Eddie. Oh my God. Nah, but no, seriously, man. I had a very I had an argument with my daughter not too long ago, and we do have arguments. It's not like always like we see on Facebook, and it was a tough conversation, man. It ended up being extremely positive, but I had to stress to her that I have been 1,000% solid as a father. I mean, I had to restate that to her, that my presence has been above and beyond your normal dad. Which is, it's nothing wrong with being a normal dad, but some of my expectations from her as a young woman is to show up in a similar fashion that you have received so graciously. And also to be mindful that those 20-minute showers or whatever you like to do, come on, like relax, like take it easy sometimes. Keep it in perspective that you don't have to pay for that water bill when it comes in the mail later in the month. Be mindful of certain things. And I don't like to flex like that, but I do think kids need to understand. I knew innately to turn lights off because my mom told me, turn them daggone lights off. You wasting energy or you causing a bill. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, that's something that I lean heavily on myself. I try to keep it real with my children, and KJ's only 9, and a lot of times I won't just say no, we're not going to Thorny Park. I'll say, well, I don't have the money for that right now, and I think we have to have the courage to have those honest conversations. There were times where I remember when Sienna was in high school, approaching college time, and I would take out the statements and show them to her and say, look, this is what we have, period. So so that she wouldn't just have some imaginary world. And I think that was my obligation to her and to KJ as well, is to give a realistic view of the world. That's one of the most things that I lean on the most heavily. And in addition to that, one of my other go-tos is I'm not afraid to be the bad guy. And that's tough, when you're in the business of raising these kings and raising our queens. You know, we can't just go along just to get along. Sometimes you're gonna have to be the bad guy, and they're gonna have to like it or lump it. But you know, you're gonna have to be strong with your no, say it with your chest, and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to, kind of echo what Chuck said, in terms of making sure they understand that the way you live and the things that you have didn't just fall out of the sky. Both Chuck and I have had the luxury of being able to be around our children because we don't have conventional 9 to 5s. And sometimes the children can see us being around the house all the time and think maybe we aren't doing that much, when the reality is that we both work, 24/7. So one of the things that I've always been cognizant of with both of my boys is, making sure they understand that daddy works, working out of my office in my house, where I'm having this conversation from, and also making them earn some of the things that they want, even though they're only 7 and 3. So they both have chores that they have to do. If they want a new, my one son loves to play Minecraft, which, to me is one of his strengths. He quite possibly has the architect gene in him. And so I want to encourage those things, but I also don't want to just give them to him. So,
Mhm.
he has things that he has to do, and in order to earn his way up. And we actually keep track of it on a board, so that he has some goals. And for me, it also plays into an early concept of goal setting and making sure that they both understand how to set goals, how to set realistic goals, and how it feels to achieve your goal. And that was also one of the underlying themes of King Richard as well. Obviously King Richard had serious goals for the kids because he had that 42-page plan before they were before they were
That's
even
right.
born.
Yeah.
So
Right.
goal setting is very real, and it's something that I'm really doing hard work to install into my kids. And one last thing, the other day, my youngest 3-year-old came out of his room, and he had a tie around his neck and glasses on, and he looked at me and he said, "Daddy, I'm a businessman." I said, "Oh,
Mm,
think I
man,
think I got one."
Yeah.
wow, wow, that's dope. That's dope.
Just to mention something real quick, as
Yeah.
it relates to raising kings and queens and King Richard too, and it wasn't explicitly said in King Richard, but physical health, mental health, really focusing on long-term repercussions of whatever you're doing now. We're all of a certain age, and we see that the way we live is paying dividends right now. And that's another thing that I really stress with my daughter is that what you do now as a young person will have consequences as well. Just like that gun or that fight or that whatever, what you eat, what you drink, what you smoke, if kids partake or whatever, will also affect you long term. And I'm here to stress the mental health aspects as well. My daughter and I, went through counseling together for at least 2 years, and that is something that I think is very important for our young men and women to really double down on because of the complexities of the environments we come up in, the world we will have to wade through, as well as the physiological things that go on within our bodies and minds.
Man, I
Yeah.
love that you said that, just with the stigma that's often in our communities with, seeking and receiving the help that we need.
Yeah.
And that has to go away. There's no shame or nothing bad about needing some help. And just speaking from a man perspective, men, we walk in silence a lot of times, and we keep this stuff bottled up, and a lot of times you just don't know what's beneath the smile and the jokes and the jovial demeanor. You just don't
Yeah.
know.
For sure.
And I just love that you said that as part of raising our kings, to encourage them to seek the help that they need, and the support they need, and be there to meet them halfway.
And having children and wanting to be there for them is a big motivating factor in that type of thing. You know, like, because you want to be the best that you possibly can be. You know, and when I talk about my particular trump card, is my children know that I am on their side.
Come on, man. That's
regardless.
Cool. That's
You know,
it,
like,
brother.
so even when my son, when he was little, when he was little pickany, and he was like, "Oh, Dad, I beat you." I'm like, "You can't beat me. You can't beat me because I'm on your side."
Come
You
on.
know, like, he like, "Oh, I did 50 push-ups, and I did 10," and I'd be like, "We did 60."
Come
That's
on.
right.
Come
That's
on.
the way. That's the way it works. You know what I'm saying? Because we are together. You know, like, and we're always, you know, like, we can argue, we can fuss, we can fight, but we're always together, and we're always on the same side. So if it ever gets to a point where I had to choose a pronoun, it would be we, us.
Come on, man. Come
All
on,
right,
man.
brother.
Come on,
My
man.
That's the way it
man.
works. That's the way it works.
Boom.
Come on, man.
That's tweetable.
Come on, man.
My man.
2 mic drops.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brother.
So this is leading us into an interesting dynamic. You know, Greg, you mentioned balancing your boys and everything, and the lessons that you impart to them, and it brings up one of the other clips that we're going to look at, where King Richard was encouraging Serena, because, you know, Venus was getting all the shine. So let's take a look at that.
Me, come on. I know you love Venus, and all this is exciting, but it's a little hard for you too, huh? Can I tell you a secret? Your sister is gonna be #1 in the whole world, no doubt about it.
I know that.
But you gonna be the best that ever was. You gonna be the greatest of all time. You know how I know? Because I planned for it. I knew you was having a hard time with Venus's shadow, but I kept you there because I knew you was raw. I knew you was tough. I knew you was a fighter. That's why I did this whole thing like this. Go on, take that in. You up next.
Crazy.
Man. So that just, you know, that was so powerful to me, because, you know, whenever you have multiple children, and I want to, you know, be careful to extend this just to everybody that we touch, right, in our communities, and everybody that's in our sphere of influence that we love in our community. But when you're dealing with multiple individuals, and you see one that's, you know, oh, so great, oh, they got straight A's and they this and that and this and that. But what about that other kid that may not be getting all that praise? So I want to just start off and get your thoughts, guys. Let's start with maybe Greg, and I want to hear how you balance in your home or in your community, you know, with the multiple people that you're interacting with. How do you balance those various talents and celebrate each of those individuals so that they feel special?
Well, you know, I come from a rather large household, you know, 6 brothers and sisters, you know, and you know, one thing that we really never were, we weren't ever really competitive with each other. I mean, we
Mm,
were competitive, but not in a competitive way where we didn't encourage people. So, you know, I was very integral with the success of all of my younger brothers and sisters, in terms of their career passions and what they wanted to achieve, and even mentoring them through personal problems that they had. And even my older sister, showed that love down to me as well as my younger siblings. And in my own household, I think, like Kala said, the goal is to foster unity, and so, when we see that one child, may have a strength, and the other one has a weakness, we work to make sure that everybody feels supported. And, the main thing that I try to you know, make my sons understand is a quote that I like to say, and that's all competition eventually breeds hate. And it's true, if you compete too long with somebody, there's going to be a certain level of resentment that starts to surface. And so, the best thing you can do is, work to, it's hard for me to follow what Kala said with the double mic drop, but it really is a true statement that I try to live by, and that, and not just within my own household, but it's my own philosophy. How can I work to be on everybody's side? How can I work to be the best servant? How can I be the best partner? How can I be the best business partner? And making see that my sons see that kind of action and that behavior as a role model, and no jealousy or envy over what the next person has or accomplished.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now we got Kala with older children, and we have Omar on the other spectrum with multiple younger children as well. So I want to hear from you guys as well. Like, how are you balancing between your kids that you're raising to make sure that each of them are celebrated, and factor in that age piece as well. So Kala, how about you?
Well, I think there's a difference, like when they're young and when they're older. Maybe we should start with Omar on this one, because because now that my kids are older,
Okay.
I'm basically an advisor.
Yeah.
It's like,
Explain
okay,
that.
it's like, okay, you don't want to do that. Okay, well, all right. Don't do it. Daddy can't make you do it. And I have to trust them and know that they're going to make the right decision. And if they make the wrong decisions, if they fall, then I'll be there and I will help them to the best of my ability. So even with all of the accolades and things that they may do, like, my only thing is that they treat each other well, and that they do what they can to make themselves happy when they can make themselves happy. That's the only thing that's really important to me. I don't care if you're a nuclear physicist, or I don't care if you're a dung sweeper. As long as you can carve out some happiness for yourself, I feel that you need to go ahead and do that. And when you fall and when you fail, if I can help you, I definitely will. You can guarantee that.
Love it. Yeah. What
but as
about
little,
Oh, you done? Or you good?
No, I was just gonna say, but as
Okay,
little kids, it's like you just got to teach them. I have to agree with what Greg said. You just got to teach them that you're together, and that's it. Any competition, that ceases. That ceases when you get through these doors.
Yeah. So me, man, you would have thought we planned these answers with all this teamwork talk, right? But that's honestly how I balance it, man. Like, I preach team all the time. Like I said, I got a 4 and a 7, and one of my favorite lines, I'll say, teamwork, and they finish it, makes the dream work. And I say it, teamwork makes the dream work, and we get nowhere without each other. We need each other. And I'm trying to lay that foundation now, because again, I got young kids. They're racing to everything. They're running. Who gets downstairs first? Who gets the toast first? Who gets poured the cereal first? Like, so So you know how many coins I flip to see who
Yeah.
goes first or second, right? So, but I keep preaching team, and that's like a common theme of that movie too, man. If you look at it, that whole family was involved
Yes.
to get those girls to that greatness.
Yes.
You had the oldest daughter there doing her homework, the other
Yep.
daughters collecting the tennis balls, the mom, when Venus was getting a lot of the attention, it was a part where Serena was getting taught by the mom how to play tennis.
Yep.
That was one big team effort. And that seems like a common theme tonight from Greg, from
Yeah.
Kala, from you, Ken, it's a common theme, teamwork. And that's what I preach. And that's how I balance it. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I kind of fall in the middle though. So y'all's kids are, closer in age. You got young kids that are in closer age. Carlisle's got older kids that are closer in age. Here I am with, an old kid and a young kid that are far spaced out. And this competition thing, it does show up.
yeah.
You would think that it wouldn't because they're so far apart, but KJ wants to do everything that Sienna can do, and he wants to be able to do it better. So it's like, dude, you can't do that. You don't have enough experience with it. You don't know as much as she knows. But on the flip side, there are things that he is excellent at that she might not be as good at. So I try my best to be aware of my children's strengths, and to celebrate them individually, and also call out where they might need to lean on. You might need some help from your sister, or you might need help from your brother in some other area, and that's that team aspect. But I make sure that I'm aware of their strengths, and I give them all the props in the world and say, "Oh man, you are a killer with that chess," or whatever the case may be, or "Man, Sienna, don't mess with her. You don't want to feel the pain of that kick." So you definitely got to recognize those differences. Yeah. So before we start to move to, I guess, the end segment of this discussion, I just wanted to kind of open it up for any just general comments or any things you didn't get to say, as well as if anybody in the chat room or anything had something that they wanted to add.
So there's a few questions, Ken. I'm going to flash them up. Thought this was a good one. Does anyone want to address Mr. Williams' neglect of his first set of kids? It was obvious in the movie as well. Deep question.
Wow. I mean, that's. I'm not going to pretend like I know, all of the details of his life story. So I won't try to, go too heavy with it.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, parents overwhelmingly do the best that they can do.
Yes, sir.
Some people's best, however, is meager. You know what I'm saying? And some people's best is not what's needed at the time for that particular child or those particular children. There are things that, because my daughters they're 13 months apart, and so, there are things that I did with them that I wouldn't do with my son, because I was in a different place. I was in a different place and a different point of understanding, and so I'm pretty sure that his previous children are like, yeah, he's no king. Like, is this your king? No, but
Yeah.
Like he was in a different place, in a different time, in a different space, and so, like we got to deal with what's there.
Yeah. And that's what I was getting at. I don't know the story. I don't know the deep, dirty details. I don't know what they went through. I don't know what their experience was, the circumstances. All I have in front of me is what's portrayed with his relationship with Serena and Venus. You know, What I say is a good thing if he, was bad to him. I don't know, but I don't know if he was bad to him. I just don't have that information.
Yeah, I mean, the family dynamic could be different. The woman he's with could be different. The kids, everything is different. So I'm not by any means making excuses. I think it's complex, and I think that people are complex too. You make no
Yeah.
excuses, but at the same time, any one thing can change everything.
Facts.
Let's just hope somewhere along the line everybody was able to, and I don't mean to sound corny, but heal,
Yeah.
and that maybe through some of the success that Richard had, that was able to somehow translate, not financially, but just mentally to the children, and then maybe he got back with them and was able to make amends. We have another
Yeah.
question. So, is there a standard of fatherhood that we expect in our community? Um, what should we expect, and where does that come from?
The one thing I want to say is that, as someone who does not have a son, I have a lot of godsons and numerous surrogate sons, and I would say that as far as a standard of fatherhood, I would love to see more people adopt that village mentality, and that's very. I mean, obviously we're with one village, so that is exactly sort of the purpose of the organization. I would love to see that matriculate into our community again, where it's not about going for self, but it's really about helping and assisting, and I think that's really present right here, right now. We are living it, but I would love to see it being more pervasive and more, community wide, so that we can raise these young men. Back in the day, you couldn't get away with things so easily because someone would tell your parents and notify them that you were doing something wrong or going astray in the wrong way or whatever the case may be. Because for whatever reason we've gotten away from that. And so that standard, I just think that fathers have to stay sturdy though. As a standard for fatherhood, being strong, being sturdy. I think those are things that never go out of style. And I think that there's a movement, and some of it, well, I won't touch. I was thinking about toxic masculinity. I don't want to really go there, even though I think that's a question floating out there. But I'll say this: we need men to be men at some point in time. That is the sort of what I would consider the natural order of things, and and I'll stop.
I want to jump in on that with the fatherhood standard, and I think just simply just be there. you know and it's just like when people joke around sometimes about having to get in shape to go to the gym or get their life right before they go to church. I feel the same way about fatherhood. Just show up and just be there. And I'll just share a short story where I remember when Sienna was born, and it's my first child. I don't know anything of what to do with an infant. What do you do? And I also believe that mothers are instinctively bonded to their children. So dads have to intentionally show up and put in the work to get to know their children. They have to be there. So I made up little games. I would sing to her. I would do baby aerobics and do stupid stuff like pretend the hand from outer space or take a little trip to the mall with just me and her. But the intention behind that was that I never wanted to just be mommy's helper. I wanted to be her dad who she could rely on and have my own relationship with her. And it didn't matter if I wasn't perfect. It didn't matter if I put the diaper on backwards. It didn't matter if I gave her too much ice cream while we was at the mall. The point was that I was there and I showed up. So I think that throughout our children's lives and the people that we touch, just show up. That's the fatherhood standard. Just show up and be there. It don't matter if you are a terrible athlete. Put on your sneakers, go out there to the court, and shoot your missed layup and spend time with that child and show up.
I wanna piggyback off that. That is the one thing that I'll say. I'm actually the only guy here that is a single dad too. I might add, so it puts me in a weird space. But I'll say that that was the one thing I was very intentional about with my daughter, having my own. And this is before divorce, by the way. Having my own relationship with my daughter. Um, in all the fullness of it. And you mentioned being mommy's helper. I was very clear on that, and I think that's partly why we're so close to this day. And I think that's really important to know. A lot of dads will say, "Oh, I'm babysitting," and I hate that. It drives me nuts when your dads do that. I don't even really like daddy duty. That's even. I don't have okay, daddy duty gets a little pass, but babysitting gets no pass, no love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one thing I want to say is that it's important for fathers out there to recognize that you're not alone. I mean, for 6,000 years now, there've been fathers, and there's a lot of information out there to read, and a lot of help that you can receive. Uh, when you do feel as if you're somehow neglecting or feel like you don't know what to do as a parent, and doubling down on what Chuck said earlier in the conversation, the importance of therapy, going to therapy, and not feeling like there's a stigma attached to getting help psychologically. A lot of times it really does demystify the issues that you are having or that you may be experiencing with your child. And the human psychology is interesting, and unless you go to school for it, you're never going to realize the mechanisms that you have available to you to cope as a parent. So, I just wanted to throw that out there that, what is the standard? I mean, I agree with Ken, the standard is the highest standard that you can possibly set for yourself. That's the standard.
Word up.
Presence, yeah.
Chuck, I know you touched on this, but I'm gonna flash it up so we can, try to dig into it a little bit. How do men, particularly young boys, protect themselves from women who fuel toxic masculinity? There's a lot of women out there that put the battery in the back. And if you've seen the other clip floating around of Jada's reaction to the smack, she laughed.
Mm-hmm.
She laughed.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, okay, we've all been there, right? Haven't we all been there?
Yeah.
That's a tough question, man.
That is tough.
That's a good question. I'm not gonna lie, Chandra texted me that question. I tried to dodge it. How do you protect young boys from women who fuel toxic masculinity? Well, I think that for me, it's all about the village. It's all about the balance. It's all about the conversation and having those checkpoints throughout the young man or woman's life about what's right and what's wrong. Jaden, when I wrote my piece on that, I spoke about it, and I hope he's having conversations too. I hope he understands now that what his dad did was wrong, not a statement being issued in order to appease a public that disapproves of it, but actually knows that it is literally wrong. And that they're making those steps, and that people who see these things out in the world, because the hood or the community, it has wrong as well. And I think that we have to continue to address people, right? So if it's a woman promoting toxic behavior, you may have to put that person to the side and address it, or you may have to surround them by an overall abundance of positive other role models from different places to balance out or overcome that negative influence. And that's tough, especially if that woman is the mother, for example, of that young king. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's
That's,
yeah.
that one is heavy. And for me, it kind of begs the question of, well, what is it rooted in? Where is this need to buck up and and all this extra energy? And I would think that in some cases it's probably rooted in not feeling like you're enough.
Mhm.
So I gotta go the extra mile to prove to this woman that I'm fill in the blank, that I'm a tough guy, or whatever it may be. So when we're talking about raising kings, what I would want, for my son is I want him to know that he is good enough, that he is a king in his own right, with or without the validation of whatever girl is smiling at him or not smiling, and to be okay with that. Because in my opinion, that's the beginning of it. When you're whole and you're secure, then you don't have the need to check everything and be trying to pop off and prove something. So that's kind of my take on it. I think it starts within and building up our village in that way.
And that's important, by the way. I think about Chris Rock a lot. I hate, and I'm not accusing Will Smith of being a bully, but I do hate bullies. And I think that Chris Rock is a man. He's a king of many types, including a king of comedy. And there's different forms of kings. Not everybody is Conan the Barbarian out there.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? And
Come
we
on.
have to respect all forms of being a king. And everybody's not going to be LeBron James. You know what I mean? And so I think that the world would be a boring place if everybody was Muhammad Ali, or So I appreciate Ken. I appreciate all of y'all, but I know his son KJ pretty well, and I really appreciate his son and how he's developing as a young person, as a young man, and figuring things out. What am I good at? What do So we have to allow our kids to grow and explore. And that toxic situation, it's a dead end. It's not. There's no future really in that, unless you're a boxer like Mike Tyson, or and even that. Imagine if Mike Tyson was whole. Imagine if whole, in his discipline, what levels he would have attained as a pugilist. You know what I mean? He acknowledges now, but imagine if he was, if he still had Camaraderie around him to do those other years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to say something about what Greg was saying, and how Greg said that competition breeds animosity.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we're working together as a man and woman, it's not a matter of competing. And I think that I mean, because I did ask my wife, like I was like, what would you have done if I had got up like that?
Mm.
And she was like, I would have told you need to sit your A double down and wait till we finish this show, or what have you.
Slide on the back, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I mean, here we are, I'm all dressed up, I got the gown on and everything like that, and you got the tux on, you going in there, and you're just gonna mess up the whole night for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, yeah, like, but I really believe that, that being that they're both celebrities, I think that there's a little bit of a competition thing that's going on in their relationship, where Jada is a little upset that his star shines brighter, and I think she wants to bring him down to earth, or bring him down to a certain level. I guess she wants to be the star. I mean, that's just an opinion.
Hold up. We're not going.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
going to speculate. We're not going.
Yeah. I didn't mean to go that far. I didn't mean to go that far, but but Sandra's question about the toxicity, and that little bit of competition, that professional competition. Let me just say that professional competition, like can lead to some toxic behavior.
I'll say that, especially for my sons, trying to teach them, one of the great things, skill sets in life that a lot of people never develop is the ability to choose, how to choose the right things. It's an actual skill set. And some people end up where they are because they don't know how to make decisions, and they don't know how to, make the right choices. So, if you have something good in front of you or something bad in front of you, why do you make these decisions? And when it comes to the toxic masculinity, making sure that my boys are secure in their manhood from the gate, so that nobody can question them or make them act out of character, based on somebody else's emotions, or somebody else's emotional deficiencies. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of men that are in the grave because of
For sure.
their women egging them on,
Mhm.
and and vice versa. A lot of women in the grave because of men's toxic masculinity.
For sure.
So
For sure.
it's something that goes both ways.
Preach,
And
brother.
I just feel like the most important thing you can do with your child, is try to teach them, like, yo, try not to be toxic in any way, shape, or
Mhm.
form. You're not
Right.
going to have any friends at all.
Yeah.
True that. True that.
That is true. That is true.
Oh
Do we
man.
have other ones too, Greg?
That's it. Those are the
Okay.
That
best
was it.
ones. Yeah.
So, what about you guys? Any um, other thoughts that you didn't get a chance to get out?
Um, I'll say, well, there is one last question I think is interesting. I think needs to be brought up, since we're talking about raising kings, and I'm going to flash it. How do you
Mm-hmm.
decide when physical discipline is preferable over verbal discipline? Um, I've always personally taken the line that if it's something that's going to get them hurt when they're
Mm-hmm.
young, you know, touching the stove, putting your head in the oven,
Absolutely.
running out in the street without looking both ways, you need to kind of be whacked into reality, and have some sort of benchmark, from daddy or mommy, as to why you shouldn't do that. But for me, verbal discipline is enough. I'm at a point now where I can just look at my kids and they know, and it's not from me beating on them.
Right.
It's from me, hopefully having this big beard and being scary, when I need to be, without without having to resort to, physical discipline. But I personally believe that physical discipline and too much physical discipline eventually produces nothing but rebellion, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't think that I've ever. I don't think that I've ever struck KJ, and Sienna probably was, so like long ago, and it was under circumstances where it was like you said, Greg, of you're about to run in the street or you're about to do something that's just so out of line, and you got to deal with it in that second. And I totally agree that if you have that relationship and have commanded respect in a way from a very, 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 very early age, I don't think it's necessary. But sometimes if it's an extreme situation, then sometimes it might be a situation where that's the only language that some folks understand. And if it has to go there, then so be it.
Any means necessary.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and each child is an individual.
right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, so I know that I learned from my son. I think I was doing something, like I used to make him run or do push-ups or something like that. And it's like, no matter what, if I couldn't convince him that he was wrong, it didn't make a difference. Like some people is like, they'll just go all the way. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? And then there's other people who are like, who are smoother. They just take what you say and then they do it and they do the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's because, all our kids, they are little human beings and individuals. And with their own personalities and their own vibe. So, like, I think it's based off of that,
Yeah. So with that, I have one parting question that I want to pose to everybody on the panel. We've talked a lot about, raising kings, and we've taken the liberty of extending it to raising queens, raising our village, which is our duty, right? And it shows up in all kinds of aspects that came out from defending, protecting, advocating, encouraging, celebrating, disciplining, all of these aspects that go into raising our village, raising our kings and our queens. So the one parting question is, in one sentence, I want each of you to tell me what's your takeaway. How are you going to now, be a better king to your village and the people that are coming behind you? Who wants to start?
I started.
Okay.
Yeah, I get one sentence. I'm gonna try my best, man. But when I was told I was gonna be on this panel and I saw that I was raising kings, I said, man, this is actually more about me than it is the king that I'm raising. And it made me say, man, I gotta look myself in the mirror and acknowledge the king that I am and like become better as a man. Like when people are not looking, become the king that I know I am to be. Because when I do that, then in turn, it's gonna be easier for me to raise one.
Be the king. I love that, brother. Love it.
That was dope.
What you got, Chuck?
Well, Rise of the New Kings is the theme of this year's Raising Kings 2022. I'm not a new king, but I promise y'all, I'm going to continue to train. I'm going to continue to sharpen my skill set. I'm going to continue to be a warrior for true justice and equality. And that's my pledge, to continue to be a king, to continue to be a warrior, to continue to be strong. I know that's more than one sentence, but that's my pledge, to literally be strong forever in some form or fashion, mentally, physically, spiritually, and economically.
Hey, yes, sir. Greg?
Well, both of my sons are named after, things that I love, history. So, Roman Wolf, that's his full middle name, Rome and the great emperors. Ramses is named after Ramses the great Egyptian pharaoh. And, I chose those names because I personally believe that, I'm here for a purpose and they're here for a purpose. And, I'm going to continue to not sound corny, but walk and understand that I'm here for a greater purpose. And by leading by example and showing them that they're here for a greater good as well, and to contribute something to the world, that's my aim, is to show them that they are here for the world and to be gifts to the world.
Kala?
I think I want to learn more from everyone. I want to be more like this. I want to learn more from the baby kings, and I want to learn more from the kings who are, they're already off the throne. You know what I'm saying? Like, so spending time around our old folk and the young ones and try to learn from them and be mentees to both of them. And and just fill my part.
Yeah.
By the way, it was good. Denzel Washington was counseled in that moment. I just want to say that he was a wise elder in that crazy moment that really helped calm things down. And
Yeah.
we need more of that. You mentioned it a lot, but we need our elders, man. Really need to listen to them and sit at their feet a lot more. Soak up wisdom.
And I just want to add to that, Chuck, and say that, and we also have to recognize too that we are elders to the whole new generation of young people, and so how we carry ourselves is going to reflect on us and on them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that relates to, my biggest takeaway is just, we make mistakes, and to wrap this up, looking at Will Smith and his king journey on his screen as well as in his real life. I believe that this is a person that's doing his best to get up and be the best man that he can be. And we all make mistakes. So,
Indeed.
What I intend to do moving forward and raising my king, raising my queen, and the people that I interact with is just try to be the best man that I can be every day. Look in the mirror and give it my best swing. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to make a lot of them. But my intention is to make less and to be a better man 5 years from now and an even better man 10 years from now in order to better serve my king and queen and community.
Right.
So with that, I appreciate you brothers, man. Y'all talking about iron sharpening iron. Y'all gave me
Learned a lot
some good
today.
stuff, man, and I'm better for it. I appreciate all y'all. Y'all know I got mad love for you, and
Word up.
thank you for this time.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you all.
Peace.
Salute.
Much love.
Yeah.